Winning Time, Reggie Miller vs. the New York Knicks, was the last film that I saw at the Sundance Film Festival this year. Quite fitting, considering the fact that I'm pretty much a sports writer, and the mid-90s and the goings-on at Madison Square Garden during that time played a huge role in me wanting to become a sports writer. Not a huge basketball fan anymore, but 94 to 98 was a great time to be a Knicks and a Nets fan. Just a lot of interesting stuff going on, and Reggie Miller was public enemy number one. Reggie Miller hit three-pointers like it was going out of style back then. And the Pacers were just not a fun team to play against. They had the Davis brothers that were intense. They had Rick Smits in the middle, who was pretty solid in his own right. They had Byron Scott. They had players coming in and out over there that were tough and that were quick, that could do a bunch of solid things. I mean, you add in all of those things on top of Reggie Miller, who was arguably the best clutch player in the league, and you had a team that you did not want to play against. Their goings-on against the Knicks were stuff of legend. I remember the game where Reggie Miller scored 8 points in something like 15 seconds or something like that to end the game and to give the Pacers a Game 1 win in 1995. And it was intense. It was one of those things where you could not believe that this guy did this pretty much all by himself and made a complete fool out of the Knicks and Spike Lee. So in this documentary, you get to see it all over again. And Dan Flores, the guy that directed and produced this thing, just does a great job of getting all of these quotes and all of these people to come and talk about how Reggie Miller was. And, you know, Reggie Miller even talks during the documentary and talks about all the things that he went through and his little dealings with John Starks. And if you're a basketball fan, this is something that you have to watch. It's a little bit over an hour. It's a quick view, but it's incredibly enjoyable as it's pretty in-depth. And if you thought John Starks was pissed off at Reggie Miller before, you'll see how pissed off he was and how he's still a little pissed off today. But the things Reggie Miller would say to these players during games was insane. You know, things like, oh, you're supposed to be a starting shooting guard in this league, look at your stat line. You know, like, you don't hear things like that from players to other players. He knew how to get under your skin. And during the documentary, he talks about climbing out of the shadow of his sister, who's arguably one of the greatest female basketball players of all time, and carving his own niche in the league and becoming somebody that the Pacers could build around. And, you know, even though they didn't win a championship when he was there, they still were always in the playoffs. They were still a solid team. So the documentary really shows, though, how much he got under the Knicks' skin and how he drove Spike Lee crazy, and totally captures the place and time that the documentary is talking about, 94, 95. And it's great to see so many people talking about this. Everyone from Herb Williams and Patrick Ewing, who's absolutely hilarious in this. John Starks. They even get Rick Smits, who's usually pretty quiet. The Davis brothers. Well, they're not brothers, but, you know, the Davis guys. Larry Brown. Ernie Grunfeld. There's tons and tons of sources in this documentary that make it incredibly credible. And make it even more fun to watch. If you're a basketball fan, you owe this to yourself to watch. If you're not a basketball fan, you may have a hard time getting into it because you're not going to know what's going on. But at the very least, it's still funny because Reggie Miller is a character. Reggie Miller is hilarious, and a lot of the guys that are involved in the documentary do their best to bring all the off-color moments to light and to just share things with Flores and you guys. So as far as sports documentaries go, you can't do much better than Reggie Miller versus the New York Knicks. So if you're still at Sundance and you haven't seen it yet, and you're looking for something a little offbeat, something a little different, I suggest it. It's going to premiere in March on ESPN 2. So if anything, you can just wait until it comes out. So it's not going to be one of those films that is waiting for a distributor. It's a part of the ESPN 30 for 30 program. So it just premiered at Sundance. There wasn't a lot of people at the Press and Industry premiere. I was a little sad about that, but when you got the chick from Twilight starring as Joan Jett across the hall, not a lot of people are going to go see Reggie Miller. But at the very least, it's still an excellent documentary, and it's well worth your time.